We have a big problem with underage drinking in cans, particularly in our bottle shops, but we've dealt with it in training our staff with RSA. They understand the laws, they understand the fines associated, and we've been able to stamp out any issues that we have there. Staff constantly ask for ID. Our rule of law in the hotel is if they look under 25, then we ask them for ID.
Well, we check all people coming onto the premises if they look in their mid-20s or younger. The only forms are the accepted forms of ID we accept. We explain that to people. We're very stringent here, especially on nights where you may attract a larger proportion of young ones. We have a special ID scanner which we use, but it's still up to the security to check the validity of the ID, and they might get checked 2 or 3 times. We have a lot of security on a Friday, Saturday night. We've got people out the front, that's the first port of call, and then they go to the door, that's the second port of call. We did have an instance actually 2 weeks ago. A young gentleman tried to present an ID. The security picked him up, called me, I came out. On the ID, his birthday was the 11th of this year. He would have been 18, but he's tried to make the 11 into a 01. And he'd done quite a good job on it, but they do try, but not as much as they used to.
We haven't had a huge problem with underage drinking, mainly because we're pretty vigilant on that. If we suspect it, we will say, show us your ID. No ID, no service. You'll have a sign on the wall, you'll show them that. If they can't produce it, they have to go. Sometimes they'll use the line, I haven't got my card with me, sorry, but you'll have to go. Or a friend will say, he's 18, I know him, I know his date of birth. And we just say, that doesn't suffice, go home and get it and come back. Normally they don't come back.
Miners these days have become very resourceful when it comes to trying to gain entrance. With computers these days, they can make fake IDs very easily. We find if we have any doubt, we confiscate them, give them to the police, and if they feel that they are 18, they can go up to the police station the next day and collect them. We insist that they have a photo ID, 18 plus card or a driver's licence. It's the only form of ID that's acceptable. If they don't, they're asked to leave regardless of how many of their friends say they're 18, and to us that's fine, because 9 times out of 10, 2 people might go and the rest of their friends will stay because they're having a good time, and it's not worth the fine and the public responsibility of allowing minors in the hotel.
We have a special licence facility. It basically means that anybody who's a student, anybody who's a member of the university can come in. Out of 5,000 students, there's around about 700 or 800 17-year-olds on campus. What happens, they're all issued with student ID cards. We control the issuing of the student ID card. So they arrive, we check their ID. If they're 17, they have to line up. They're breathalyzed by one of the security. We then put a tag on their wrist. We also tell them they can't drink. That's made sure that they haven't drunk up to the point they've got here. If they drink whilst they're here, on the way out, they'll do one of 2 things. They'll either leave their ID card behind, in which case, if they haven't been smart enough to pull the tag off their wrist, our security will pull them up anyway. If they have been smart enough to do that, we've got their ID card. And ultimately, if they don't comply with our rules, then they can get expelled from the university.
Because our drive-through is open till midnight on Friday and Saturdays, we don't serve walk-in customers after 10. So it's another strategy we do, because you've got areas around our business that could be congregation points for young ones, and all they do is try and send the older one up with some money.
Because the bar attendant, don't forget the bar attendant has the right to view the ID as well as the security. Security is only giving them entry into the premises. It's the bar attendant, the core server, who has an obligation there. So, little checking guide under the bar, pull it out, have a look if it's a Northern Territory licence. They can soon see that is a valid licence and no problems with serving a patron. But the ID criteria is very, very important. It's 18 or no ID, no service. That's the strategy we use.